Well, I'm just going to hang out here for a few minutes and I'm going to run back to my desk and listen in.
Perfect. Looks like you are good to go, Jared.
Cool. Let's call to order the April 6th meeting of the Northgate Redevelopment Advisory Board. Can we start with roll call, please, Irma?
Jared Martin,
Here.
Mark Adams,
Here.
Nate Levin,
Here.
Mike Alley,
Here.
Scott Cantonwine,
Here.
Deacon Lucas, and Mike White.
Okay. Let's see. Can we get a motion for the approval of the agenda?
I would move approval of the agenda as presented.
Second.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Approval passed. And an approval of the minutes, motion for approval of the minutes of the February 2nd meeting.
I'll move approval of the minutes.
I'll second.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Minutes approved. Okay, did we have anyone for public comment today? I don't think we did. Correct, Sarah?
Nope, nothing was forwarded to me, so we're good.
Okay, so we'll go right into Aaron's here, and he is the engineer working on our couple projects that are finally moving forward that we've been waiting on. So Aaron, welcome. You want to jump into your first?
Yes, thanks for having me. My name is Aaron Edelman, project manager in the engineering department with Salem. So Sarah asked me to join the group and talk about some of the upcoming bond projects in the area. So as I assume you all are aware, the voters passed a $300 million bond, which includes several projects in this district's area. So the first one I was going to chat about was share my screen here. Silverton Road. Is everybody able to see that? Awesome.
Yes, I can see it.
All right. So the bond included funds to do pavement rehabilitation on Silverton Road, essentially from 17th here on the westerly end. And I'll scroll to the next screen. Continues on through the Lana intersection. Goes on, scroll to another screen here quickly. Sorry if I'm going too fast. Then it continues to a point where we did a paving project as a part of the 2008 bond. We paved a short piece of Silverton just to the west of Hawthorne. So you kind of see this break here. We're skipping over that piece that we paved in, I think we did it in like 2009 or 10, forget the exact year. But then we continue on to the Fisher Road intersection. And as a part of this far east end, we're going to stop short of Fisher Road because the bond also included a project to improve Fisher Road. So that project will be the one that comes in and touches this intersection here. So with the pavement rehabilitation, along with that comes improvements to all the curb ramps to bring everything up to ADA compliance. So all the intersections, you'll see this kind of blue and orange little hatch area. What that is kind of signifying is what we assume it'll take to bring all those corners up to compliance. A couple other pieces that go with this, jump back to the 17th Street intersection. So Urban Development is funding the improvements at this intersection. So we're going to combine those projects together. And that is a left turn lane here on Silverton Road to be able to go southbound on 17th. So this whole area will get widened. Right now, as you kind of see in this exhibit, we're showing half the width goes on each side. Obviously, that has big impacts here on the northern side. As we get into the design of the project, we're going to figure out kind of the best split, how that works and what's needed there. But big project comes with a new traffic signal. Yeah, so coupling that together to make one big project. Another thing you'll see here is a proposed pedestrian crossing right here in front of the Marion County, I think it's called Human Health Services Building. This right now is kind of just proposed, and the thought is the bond also included 3 buckets of money. One bucket was for ped crossings, one bucket was for sidewalk infill, and one bucket was for sidewalk replacements. So staff at this point, we've taken some suggestions to the bond subcommittee for things like this, where we think it's a good fit to add this with the project, the paving project, and fund it from that bond bucket. That has not yet been approved. It's not been finalized, so this is not set in stone yet. But there's a pretty good potential this could occur. This is a crossing that was already requested through the pedestrian crossing program that we have in place. It's been scored. It scores very high. So it makes a lot of sense to couple it all together, and we're hoping to make that happen. It's not finalized yet. So that's a piece that you could see come with it. Scroll to the next page here. On this page, our exhibit doesn't really show it, but there is a existing 24-inch steel water line that goes from Duncan. Hopefully I won't mess this up here. Duncan to Beach Street. And as we looked at the utilities beneath this roadway, we want to make sure that all the utilities are basically in tip-top shape before we go and make the top nice. That water line was identified to need to be replaced. We don't often have steel water lines in the city. Most of our water lines are ductile iron. Steel a lot of times causes this issue, and the age of this one is kind of at that age where it gives a lot of concern. So there is utility money going towards the replacement of that section of steel water line. So that would occur before the paving work, but as a part of the bigger project. You'll see here on this page, potential sidewalk infill. Actually, that should be replacement. So this is in front of Capitol Collision. There's a short piece of asphalt sidewalk there. That is, again, another area where we're recommending to the bond subcommittee that we should use some of that bucket money to fix this short piece of sidewalk as a part of the project. That again is not set in stone, but we're recommending that. And then scrolling down here, jumping to the Sedona intersection. This ped crossing actually did get funded. This got funded through the state of Oregon as a safe route to schools. So that will be done as a part of it. And then you can see there's some other sidewalk infill or replacement that we identified. There's some short pieces of asphalt here. There's actually asphalt in front of the convenience mart here by Williams. And then there's this missing piece of sidewalk by the large oak tree here. So we've recommended all those different components. None of those are set in stone either. So overall, a big project, a lot of improvements to the area. Any questions on this one before we?
Yeah, Aaron, this is Mark. The end of 17th Street, where you would expand both to the north and the south on Silverton Road there, has there been any look at expanding just to the south so that you don't impact the businesses? Instead, you take some of the basically parking lot from the state fairgrounds or the vacant lot there instead?
There's a very good chance that's what could occur. We were hesitant to show all of it on one side or the other, knowing that, we have to work with DAS to work through that on the state fairgrounds as well. There's big chunks of the state fairgrounds that are considered historic, several historic buildings. So we're not sure quite how that all impacts. There's also tracks that come in through here. We think those will be considered historic. So those will be all the things we weigh moving forward. I mean, our hope is we can avoid, the impacts like you talk about to these businesses, but we just have to work through that as we get the design more refined. This is pretty high level concept picture at this point.
Okay, but that is still an option on the table.
Oh, most certainly. Yeah,
Good, thank you.
we will do what we can to make it least painful for everybody.
What's your start date?
Good
What
question.
are you projecting?
Just realizing I didn't talk about timing. So we are, right now, we're in the process of hiring a consulting firm to start the design, gather the survey, start the design. We're working with West Tech Engineering, a local firm here in town. So we're kicking it off. The hope is we can have it ready to construct in 2025. That seems like a ways out, but depending on how the right-of-way acquisitions how things go right here, that's already a pretty tight timeline, but that's our goal, is a 2025 construction. We're starting to realize that while it's a simple construction, there's a lot of pieces to this. The water line will probably create some challenges. We just checked the other day, the pipe of that size, they're telling us in today's world, is like 20 plus weeks out, which creates challenges. Obviously, when we do get into construction, we like to do this kind of work in the middle of the summer when the weather's nice. However, we probably will have to shut down for several weeks during probably both the county fair and the state fair. So definitely some challenges doing some work in this area, but we'll have to work all those details out and make it happen.
Hey, Aaron.
Yeah.
And you may not know this, but I'm just thinking it could be interesting for the board. So from the URA perspective, just, as everybody knows on the board, our contribution is around 6 million. We added a little bit more this year because obviously costs have gone so far up, and we put a couple million aside for this 2 years ago when we were starting to look at Pine Street. I'm just curious, off the top of your head, Aaron, as a whole, because we've been able to now package this with a much larger project, which for those of the board members that were, allergies are getting the best of me this morning. For those board members that were on the board, especially when we were going through the last round of streetscape improvements on Portland Road, and we were doing the maximum indebtedness and what projects we wanted to do, the big idea was, how can we partner with other projects, because everything is so expensive and we just don't have that huge drop of money to do these really big impact projects. And so we were trying to be really strategic. Where can we do things? And then where do we think maybe we can potentially partner? And obviously with these bond projects, and Aaron has a second one after this, we're getting those opportunities that we didn't know we were going to have. So I'm just curious, as a whole, and we don't know the exact numbers yet, obviously, but from an estimating perspective, how much are we thinking this is costing as a whole? So it's kind of that bang for our buck. We're putting in 5 for a small portion, but we're getting a project that's valued at, such a much larger number, I guess, is what I'm kind of trying to throw out there. And sorry, I should have asked you this ahead of time, Aaron.
No, and I don't have all those exact numbers, but
roughly.
The total number will really depend on how many of these bucket pieces get added to it. The other one, I guess I failed to mention, mainly because it doesn't show up here on the map, is we also looked at adding sidewalk along 17th to connect with the existing asphalt path that's further to the south. So if we just go out on a limb and assume we're adding all those sidewalk pieces, all the ped crossings, the water line, all that stuff, the greater project is, I think, well over $10 million. But again, a lot of those pieces aren't fully set in stone yet. We're still working through those potential bucket projects, and it would all go together as one package, because we definitely do get an efficiency with bundling it. It's an efficiency in the design costs and the bidding costs, and it's more attractive to contractors, and we can better bid.
Great. Thank you. So it's sort of a 2-for-1 is kind of what we're getting, but obviously we're getting a lot more than just the improvement at the intersection, even just the amount of things that are getting spread out just in that corridor of improvements to give a lot more value for the area.
Yeah, so I guess I can share the stuff that is fully funded is the pavement work is 4.56 million. The water line is just shy of $1 million. I think it's like 998. The intersection is at like Sarah said, just short of 6 million. And then the ped crossing, the one at Sedona was, I think it's around 400,000. So fair amount of money. Okay. Does anybody have any curiosity about Fisher Road? I know that's not in your area, but it's close. I don't have a fancy picture for that one yet. Any questions on that one before I maybe jump to Portland Road?
Is it the part of the Fisher? Didn't we expand the URA into Fisher Road for that project?
Not
Or
for
was
that
that-
project. What we did a very small cherry stem, and it was to include the redwood crossings
That's what it was.
site. Yeah, we didn't do like a big expansion. It was just, we call it a cherry stem because it was literally just a small little line that kind of looped around just to bring that parcel into the URA.
Yeah, so the piece that's in the bond on Fisher is from Silverton Road south, all the way down to the Power Automotive Complex, where it curves around, and the city did some improvements there to connect it to Market, a couple, 2-3 years ago. So it ties into those improvements on the far south end down by Market. Okay, well, I'll jump over to Portland Road. I don't have quite of as advanced of an exhibit on this one. There's some pieces that are wrong, but it'll kind of give you a flavor. So same thing on Portland Road. It's a paving R&R project. The idea that the extents is to match into the concrete that goes under the railroad on the south end, and essentially take it all the way to the north to the Bill Fry / Northgate intersection. You can kind of see on this aerial, our city forces actually repaved that intersection this summer, and that's why it all kind of looks dark in this exhibit, because this is new asphalt there. So that's the intent. We're looking closely at those limits to see how it fits on the funding. We do recognize, and that's kind of what's wrong on this exhibit, we do recognize the Lana intersection. That signal is extremely old and needs work. So we're looking at, we don't have funding for that, unfortunately. We're debating whether to skip that with the paving, just because the paving would trigger a bunch of ADA improvements. If we come in now and do those improvements, it's pretty hard to make those work with a new signal replacement if that does occur in the next few years. So we're still trying to figure that out. But again, that's the intent. This project also has areas we've identified where there's, existing asphalt sidewalk. We're trying to determine, should those be funded out of the bond buckets as well. So none of that stuff is set in stone, but we're making some of those recommendations and seeing where it'll take us. And then that one also has a water line component as well. We're looking at, there's a water line in this piece that we know it needs work, and we're trying to get that funding to come together as well.
Wasn't those ADAs federally funded through ODOT?
Not on these areas, no. So the pavement R&R work has to fund the ADA work as well. Now ODOT is going around town doing ADA improvements along their jurisdiction. It's basically fallout from their previous suit that they had on ADA compliance. So you will see work around town where they're trying to bring their corridors into compliance, but their jurisdiction on Portland Road stops, I think it's up by I-5.
And Aaron, this one's a bit further out though than
It-
obviously the Silverton one. So that's part of the reason why there's still so many unknowns, as Aaron is kind enough and not saying it, but obviously when the bond went through, there's a very long list of projects, and engineering got tasked with get as many of these out, figure out design, how fast can we get these out the door? And so he's really been leading that charge. And so some of these projects that we know are further out, haven't really been fleshed out in the same way, just because they're still further out. And this is one of those, but since he was coming, I really wanted to bring it to everyone's attention. And plus it, I did briefly bring this up in our budget conversations. This falls into that category of, we never thought we'd be able to do much more work on Portland Road after we did the streetscape improvements from Hyacinth to Bill Fry. And this is where the bond is coming into play. And I do think there's probably going to be that conversation and opportunity where, the URA, most likely in some way tries to help contribute so that we can make it a really great project. Probably not enough to do a signal intersection. I don't think we're going to have that kind of money to contribute, but it doesn't mean that we can't help in other ways to help backfill. So it'll be something that we'll definitely be bringing back to the board as the conversation goes on, but that's some of the reason why there's still a lot of questions around it.
Yeah, this one's a 2027 build, so we're, like Sarah said, we're haven't dug into the details on this one as deep yet as like Silverton Road.
Hey, Aaron, are you allowed to just upgrade the signal lights themselves instead of doing the whole new redo? Is that an option?
You're
On
talking
Atlanta Avenue.
Atlanta. I mean, it's possible, but the tricky part is when the signals get as old as this one is, then there's issues with the wiring, and it becomes a question of how much money do you throw at it. Yes, the answer is yes, it is
Okay,
possible.
yeah. I mean, new light heads and things like that, using existing poles and, and same switching units and everything, to me would be a minor upgrade, but it would still be a nice thing and may get us a little closer to, what people desire. So.
No, it's definitely a possibility, and we try to look at those things and kind of weigh the cost benefit and see if it really makes sense. If I remember right, this is one of the older ones in town, so I'm just guessing from our maintenance group there would be reluctancy to throw that kind of effort at it, but I don't want to speak too much to that and speak out of turn. So
well, yeah, but like you mentioned, if putting the new system in triggers the ADA thing, then you're into a whole different thing that's going to definitely impact businesses. So that's the concern. And
I'm the one kind of saying, well, does it really make sense to do a bunch of ADA stuff to the old poles? Because once you put the new poles in, which at some point will have to be done, but you can, but normally we don't put them in the exact same location because you keep the old system running while you install the new system. So then it kind of becomes does it make sense to build something throwaway? What's the time frame look like? Type of a question. Right.
No, I know there's ramps there. They're just not the new modern, ramps kind of thing.
Exactly. So yeah, we'll be looking closely at all that and trying to figure out what makes the most sense. And as we figure those things out, we'll come back and try to keep everybody in the loop. And
great, thank you.
I have a question on water lines. And I would suggest that as far as design and process, as far as doing the upgrade project, that the water line be the priority as the first step, the street improvements be the second step, and then everything else, including intersections, sidewalks, etc., be later on the list, so that we can get the biggest bang for the buck, and if need be the least disruptive.
Yeah, that, like on Silverton Road, that'll be the order of construction. On Portland Road, the paving piece is what got funded by the bond. We need to figure the water line piece out yet, unfortunately. But the water line, it's the same improvements that was identified back with phase 2. Back with the.
And that's what Aaron and I have actually already started talking about, Nate, is the water line component on Portland Road, because it wasn't identified in the bond, and that's one of those areas of, what does that look like, and that might be where it makes sense for us to put that urban renewal into, because we know the impact, especially some of those properties we know over time are going to be developed. They're going to need that access, and it's not like we can rip up the road once, they've gone ahead and repaved it. So you're spot on with what Aaron and I have already started talking about.
Yeah.
Well, I would absolutely encourage and endorse our participation in the conversation of the water line.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's great to know. And I mean, from engineering's perspective, we are as well. It makes a lot of sense. Unfortunately, the bond did not include, the utility type work like that we're talking about. It was really more streets, parks, fire, those other pieces. It didn't really include any sewer upgrades, water upgrades. So we're trying to reshuffle some of the CIP funding for these out year projects like this to be able to address the utility needs before the street gets brought up to a new condition.
Okay.
Yeah, and we've been pretty fortunate because I think, and Aaron, correct me if I'm misspeaking, but I believe that North Gateway is the only urban renewal that's actually getting infrastructure projects like this as part of the bond project lists. A lot of the URAs, those projects were pulled because there's URA funding. So we're kind of getting a unique opportunity to be able to enhance those projects. And, like with Silverton Road, we're really getting way more bang for our buck to do some projects we didn't think we'd be able to accomplish, which is really nice for us.
Yeah, I would say you guys are in a great situation. You're getting a lot of money to the area, more than a lot of the other parts of town. So yeah.
Well, great. Thanks, Aaron. Is there any more questions? No.
All right. Well, thanks.
Appreciate it, Aaron.
Yeah, and I will probably be back at some point as things progress and we know more.
Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, Sarah, what's happening?
I don't
More-
have anything. Does
got
anybody have
nothing?
anything for me? Yeah, I
No
don't
updates?
really,
Right.
we've just been busy working on these projects.
Yeah.
Aaron was kind enough to let me be part of the committee, so I was able to review all the proposals that came in as well and be part of the process. So hopefully I'm representing the board well as we move forward, and we'll keep bringing stuff back to y'all. But no, I don't have a ton of info, but if there's any questions or anything that anyone on the board has, I'd be happy to either answer or come back with stuff or whatnot.
I had a question. This is kind of a off the hip question. What is the process for suggesting, I'm not sure what the technical term is, but basically managed camping sites?
So if you had sites that you think, are you saying you have an idea of like a site that would be great for a location?
Yeah, there's a parcel over on Mainline Drive, which I believe is within the URA, 3750 Mainline. It's old. It's been a paving yard. It's been a towing yard, and now it's on the market.
Jared, do you want to jump in?
Scott,
I will say before Jared jumps in on that site, if you have any ideas of sites or things like that, I would definitely recommend contacting Gretchen Bennett, who is sort of handling all of that. So any suggestions, I think, you have her contact information, correct,
Yes,
Scott?
yes.
Yeah, so anything in that realm, I would go to her, and then she can kind of, if she's not the right person, she definitely can connect you with the right person.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
Scott.
And now I'll let Jared go.
Yeah, Scott, I own that property, and I bought.
Are you the new owner or the old owner?
No, old. I've had it for 8 years, and
Okay.
for five years, I've been trying to get a building permit. It took me
Okay.
two and a half years to get a fire hydrant into the area in order to even move forward with applying for a building permit. And then I have been doing site plan and stuff. So that you probably saw the sign up, and that's actually for lease because I got 2 buildings going onto that property. It's being completely stripped, redone. It's going to be gorgeous when it gets done.
That'd be awesome.
No, it's been 5 years. I've been trying to get this through, and I'm literally
no,
hoping to hear this week that it's
Cool.
approved, and I should have a building permit. So
Yeah, I was familiar with that property when it was Cascade Paving
yeah,
way
me
back
too.
when,
Yep.
and it was halfway presentable then, but now I don't think you can even see the old office that was there.
No,
Yeah.
I tore. Yeah, I did a whole bunch of stuff. We don't need to keep
Yeah,
everybody
yeah.
in the meeting for that. But
No
yeah,
worries. No,
yeah, it's gonna be gorgeous when it gets done.
good deal.
Yeah.
Thank you both.
Yep. Okay. Well, if nobody has anything else, we can go ahead and adjourn. And we'll have a May meeting. Yes.
As of now, unless we have an action item, we're going into our normal sort of as the weather gets better every other
other.
month schedule. So
Yeah.
unless there's an action item, we'll try to avoid May. We'll go to June so that we can avoid July with the 4th holiday, meet in August, and then try to avoid beginning of September with the Labor Day holiday, and then meet in October. But obviously, as action items and things come up, that may change, but we'll try to stick to kind of our normal schools out, summer, holiday kind of schedule to work with everybody.
Excellent. Well, thanks everybody. Being
All right,
adjourned.
thank you. See you
All right,
later.
have a